12 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African Time. If you have just joined us, welcome to it. This is African Diaries. The name is Shayla Ndikumana, and it's time for us to get into our second hour's contents. Now, we have an opportunity to continue conversations on the potential for resilience. This time around, though, we're not looking at potential, we're looking at fully fledged resilience. The story of Thobeka Ndwandwe is one of courage and that of resilience. Thobeka is a professional actress, a singer, and a director who trained at Ikabao Performing Arts Academy. Through theatre and music, as well as outreach, she uses her voice to confront social ills like teenage pregnancy, bullying and abuse. But behind her artistry, there's also a personal journey. Thobeka is a survivor of sexual assault, and through her work, Silencing the Screams, she is helping others find their own voices. She joins us on the line this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, Thobeka. Welcome to African Diaries.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm sorry, Thobeka, we are losing you there. Please do come on. Hello, hello.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. How you doing, beautiful?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Awesome, awesome. Thobeka, we have to first commend you for coming onto the platform. I do understand that this will be the very first time you share your story. And so we do commend that you have found comfort in sharing it with the African Diaries team. Let's talk about your story. What is the story?
Oh, well, it is not the first time I'm sharing it. It just recently went viral on social media because I had an interview on another podcast that is here in KZN, Durban, right? And so my story begins, rather happens when I'm 4 years old, it's during a family, gathering, and a family friend sort of saw an opportunity and took advantage and stripped me of my innocence. And shortly after that, I would lose my mom to breast cancer. And so I would just grow up with a lot of anger for that happening. And so as I grew up, I was so angry, at the world and at my mom because I felt like she left me at one time, or rather at a time where I needed her the most. And so I would just sort of try to navigate myself in the world. And eventually, by the grace of God, I would find healing. And I wouldn't be able to tell you how. But however, through therapy and sort of mental help I received. And then I will be able to get to a place where I was comfortable to then speak about my past, and also just to share my story so I can inspire a younger version of myself to sort of, for other women rather, to find healing in my story as well. So that is my story.
And Thobeka, I want to get into this expression that you would like to give your younger self. Right. I think more often than not, everybody has their own interpretation of what a message might mean. And I want us to bring clarity to your message. What is that motivation that you want to give younger self?
Is that I do not deserve it. I did not deserve it. And whatever happened, right, it was never my fault. And that I am bigger than my story, and I'm bigger than my past, right? And I can always be able to then stand tall from my scars to say, oh yeah, this is a bump I once hit in my life. And today I get to show the world that the beauty of God as well, because I feel like also I focus so much on wanting to be happy and just focus and try so hard to not sort of forgive myself for that also, because of the judgments that also came, like society. Are you revealing? Are you sexy, dressed a certain way? But I was a 4-year-old. How could I possibly be sexually attractive to an old man, And so I had to then go back to my younger self and then say, you listen, you are worthy of love, and you are worthy of the best things that come with life. and you did not deserve it.
So you embody this messaging through art, yes? My
Yeah.
take is silencing the screams is the platform through which you express this. Talk to us about the platform.
So, Silencing the Scream was a play that I did that was directed by Umusa, right? Umusa Goso. He's one of the creatives here in KZN. And in the story, you find these young girls who go out to a club, and of course, they're all happy and excited. And then they find a young man who offers to buy them drinks. And in him buying them drinks, for them it was all innocent because all the men offered to buy them drinks. And eventually he becomes entitled to the fact that, hey, I bought you guys drinks, then what do I get in return? They were like, no, but we were just having a session of us just sort of, drinking and having fun. And then it takes a dark turn where the guy then says, no, 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 because I have bought drinks, then I'm entitled to you guys having sex with me. So eventually he rapes her, and also then Silencing the Screams. Now the title rather comes up where she's then unable to sort of then stop blaming herself for what had happened, right? Then in exchange, she then tries to silence the voices in her head to say, it was never my fault, right? And I have to forgive myself for what happened. And how do I then find help? And that's how we tell the story, because eventually she then tells the story how she ends up where she was and so forth. And yeah.
Thobeka, a play like that could have all kinds of triggers embedded in it for those who are going to consume the content. How do you conscientize your audience? What's the conversation that you're having with your audience to ready them for that kind of delivery?
So we sort of, I don't think there is a way that you can prepare people for triggers, right? When it comes to traumas that I've experienced. However, what you can do is that after you have then portrayed that story, then you have help, to then sort of say, okay, after I have triggered 1, 2, and 3 in the crowd, do we then have social workers who are then going to attend to those people? So that's how we sort of, manage to do sort of damage control, if I may call it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the reception. What's some of the commentary that you've received concerning Silencing the Screams? What are people saying? How are people taking it in?
Inspiring to some, then giving voices to others to then speak about their traumas as well, and others get healed. It is a very sad reality, to be quite honest. There's a lot of people who don't speak about their sexual assault past, or rather cases. And so when we do such a thing to then sort of give them a voice to then say, you can come forward and speak about it. We do have help where you can be assisted, and how we can sort of steer you in the direction where you are going towards healing, so you can then be able to sort of help the next person that is closest to where you are, because we do these in different provinces, right? We do these in different areas of KZN or South Africa. So we will not be able to be there every single day. So then we sort of prep you to then, as you move forward, if should you ever be triggered, how do you then handle those things? And so it's just a very vast thing. There's only so much that we can do also. So the work also has to come from the person, rather the victim, to then, do you want to get to a place where you feel better as well? And how do we then assist you, right? And that's what I always say to my people, rather my followers, my communities, I would always say the best way that I got to a better place was simply talking about it. So then that way, by simply talking, the people around me, whether it's family or friends, they are then able to sort of meet me where I am. And that way I can be able to communicate to them to say, you know what, I'm not feeling good today. Then how do they then say, okay, we are here, how do we help?
The voice there of Thobeka Ndwandwe, who is a professional actress, a singer, and a director as well. And she's showing us how messaging can be met in art to bring about healing. We're talking about the stage play, Silencing the Screams, but also looking at her own personal journey. If you do have questions, find us on WhatsApp, +27 634 069 126. Thobeka found it very... The conversation around speaking up has been such a critical one, right? And I'm saying this as an individual who's trained to speak to those who are not willing to speak about what has happened. There are layers to the healing process. How have you integrated your personal journey on this, and I suppose in the film industry, in the theater industry, in music as well? How have you used those art forms to bring about some kind and form of healing for self in order for you to be able to speak up? And I'm asking you this question for the person who's sitting and saying, I am a victim or I am a survivor, but I don't want to talk. I don't see the point of talking. I don't understand the power behind talking.
That's one. So in acting, I'm going to go back to just foundation before I can simply get to the answer to that question. In acting, we are taught things, right? Where we then say, for an actor to be able to bring emotions, we are always advised never to borrow from our reality stories, right? Hence, there was a theory that was introduced then, it's called the sponge theory, which means you take a literal sponge, you place it in water. Of course, it absorbs the water, right? And that theory then says you go back to a place where you once felt a certain way. So you use empathy for the character that you're playing to then how do you find relations to your reality, instead of taking from my past to say, okay, I need to cry right now in this scene. I'm going to take from a past experience that Thobeka experienced and give it to Oluetu, or give it to whoever character that I'm playing, right? And so we apply the sponge theory to then say, instead of borrowing, right, completely by taking from an experience, do we then say, put yourself in the character's shoes, right? To say, there is a real Thobeka out there who's currently going through what I'm sort of playing right now, right? How do I then inspire that Thobeka who's out there? Because in the story that I'm playing, I do get to a place where I'm healed and I'm able to speak about what's currently happening in my life. How do I then inspire the real character that I'm playing to then be able to be comfortable to then come forth and speak about their experience, right? So then we drive the story to a point where we sort of indicate, or rather show, that it is okay, to speak about these things, because that is the one way that you can actually be able to find healing. And that is how I also get to heal as Thobeka, by simply then speaking about these things with myself and having this conversation with myself, and then sort of saying, or coming to a common ground with myself to then say, you know what, this is not this is restricting me from becoming a better person. This is restricting me to becoming a better partner in a relationship, becoming a better friend to my friends, or becoming a better daughter to my parents, right? And how do I then get to a place where I have good relationships? Because that's another thing with trauma. It hinders a lot of things, right? And so if you don't get to a place where you then have a conversation with yourself and talk yourself into healing, you will then have unhealthy unhealthy relationships. And now for me to become a better person, I had to have this conversation with myself to then say, you know what? We need to heal. We cannot be victims for the rest of our lives. How do I then take my power? Right? By simply forgiving, because forgiveness has nothing to do with the person who actually, who harmed you. It's all about you, right? So it is simply taking the first steps to saying, I'm taking my power back, I'm taking my voice back. And that's how you'll be able to get to a much better place. I think that's how it sort of made me feel better. In a way, in a sense, that's how it has healed me. Every time I play different characters, I get to relate with them and sort of guide them, and sort of then sort of try to relate to a real person in real life. I don't know if I've answered the question because I've said
You
so much, but
have.
how I feel about it.
You have. You definitely have, Thobeka. Let's
Yeah.
talk about forgiveness, right? You said quite a bit, and
Yeah.
with every point, I had like 10 questions. But I
Sorry.
love the point of forgiveness and how you say that forgiveness isn't about the perpetrator; it's about you. What does forgiveness look like for somebody who's saying, I can't, I don't know where to begin? Like, what are you saying to me? What is forgiveness and what does it look like tangibly?
Okay. I'm a Christian, right? So I'm going to try not, spreading it too far, right? I'm
Yeah.
just going to touch base. So as a Christian, the one thing that we learn that is very important and crucial in our Christianity, in my also spiritual journey with Nkulunkulu, is that the conversation around forgiveness almost seemed like a scary thing when I was growing up, right? Is that God forgives me for every little thing that I do, right? And one mistake that I make is strike out, like -1, strike two. It's like God is counting as I'm making these mistakes. Now, when I got to know God, that narrative changed because the Holy Spirit revealed some things to me, right? To then say, forgiveness is sort of patting myself in the back, right? To say it's more like trying to rock a child to sleep, right? You are gentle with it and you sort of try to regulate the child for the child to sort of follow the rhythm of your body, whether you are moving in a certain way, right? Have you seen how when you
Yeah.
you do this pat in the back, right? That's regulation, right? So that's what you are simply doing. You are trying to regulate yourself. So that's what forgiveness is, and that's what it feels like. Also, it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with you as the person trying to rock the child to sleep, right? It has everything to do with you trying to make sure that the baby actually sleeps,
Yeah.
right? So you can reap the benefits of the baby sleeping because you can just go about and do other things. That's what it is. That's what forgiveness is, right? You forgive so that you move on with your life. You can get to a much better place. Because then anger, if the definition of anger is punishment for something that someone else did, that's what it is, right? So when you are angry, you are punishing yourself for something that someone else did to you. So when you forgive, you are then simply saying, I forgive you for what you have done, so I can become a better person, so I can get to a better place, so I can be the best version of myself. That's what it means.
Wow. I am stuck at anger as you punishing yourself for
Yeah.
something that someone else did to you. Sheesh.
Yes.
Goosebumps, chills, all kinds of weird things are happening to me right now. The voice there of Thobeka Ndwandwe joining us, professional actress, singer, and director. And she's also sharing with us how art can be used as a form of healing, not just for herself in this context, but we see her spreading light onto others' spaces through the play, Silencing the Screams. We're also having an opportunity to get into her own journey and how she has found healing for self with self. Thobeka, I want to talk about 16 days of activism this is quite the time, particularly here in South Africa, and I want to extend the observance to the continent as well. In your messaging, in your acting, in everything that you do, in your efforts towards fighting the scourge of GBVF, what would be the one message that you would want to leave? And I suppose this is twofold. I want you to speak to the victim, but I also want you to speak to the perpetrator.
Right. Whew. We are here, right? And we are willing to help. However, in order for us to help you, you then need to meet us halfway, right? So we can be able to give you the help that you need so you can become a better person. And to the perpetrator, because there's two sides to a story. It could be that someone was exposed to it, and so they have not healed from that trauma because they just didn't know how to sort of voice it out, to speak about it. We are also there for you guys as well. If you need assistance, if you know that this is a problem and it's eating away at you, there's also help for you as well. Because mental health is for everyone, whether you're a victim, whether you are the person, applying pain on someone else. We are here for all those things, and we are listening. And one thing that the Bible also says is that God says, I'm the light of the world, right? And no one takes the light and place it under a blanket, but they put it on the stand so that everyone can actually get the light from that lamp, right? And so that does not mean when the lamp is on top of the table, it only shines upon someone who has been hurt or who has been a victim, but it also shines upon the people that are applying those hurtful things to other people. Then that simply means that everybody is worthy of help. And so we are here for all of you guys. Speak to us.
Absolutely.
We are willing.
Yeah. Thobeka, it has been a pleasure speaking to you this evening. This has been a fruitful conversation. We cannot wait to see more reviews concerning Silencing the Screams. And of course, just noticing the reality of awareness being put forth. Because sometimes we become so sensitive that we do not address the issue at all. And I think you're taking a bold move here to say not only are we going to talk about the problem, but we're going to enact it so that you can tangibly understand the trauma, the pain that this one would cause, but also see the potential for solutions as well. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
The voice there of professional actress, singer, and director Thobeka Ndwandwe joining us this evening, 35 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. A bit for you to ponder on, to think on. Question number one to you watching right now is what is your gauge on speaking out? And I'm not specifically going to limit this to GBV. I mean to all issues, things that you might feel that you are drowning in and nobody knows of. What's your gauge? I'm not asking you why you're not speaking out. I'm saying, what's your gauge? What is that? What's your understanding about speaking out? Because we've seen the conversation fold into two, where one would say, listen, Shayla, I don't understand how speaking is going to solve the problem. Whereas we're seeing hope. We're seeing opportunities for solutions being presented by virtue of people speaking up. So what is your gauge of speaking up? Secondly, how do you think that we as individuals who are part of community contribute to, of course, eradicating GBV to the best of our abilities? I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts, your views, your commentary. Find us on WhatsApp +27 6340 69126. For now, some music.
Africa's voices, Africa's journeys, they're all on African Diaries.